Okay. I had a cookie. So my mouth won't stop blah 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 blah. My mouth won't stop watering because it was very sweet. After darting down a few levels of the garage at top speed, I finally arrived. Let me just take a drink. Probably should have done that before I started recording. Okay, loud whispers and rowdy laughter made it sound like the meeting hadn't started yet. I was just in time. The two groups standing across from each other were pretty clear-cut, and I could easily tell which house was which. One was full of rough types, probably gangsters and punks in life. Tattoos, leather jackets, piercings, and wild eyes were everywhere. The other group, interestingly enough, looked like the complete opposite. Eccentric outfits, soft murmurs, and a large amount of eerie smiles. Alright, let's cut the bullshit and talk conditions. A deep voice suddenly boomed through the garage, making everyone fall silent. Moments later, a tall, muscular vampire pushed his way to the front of the Mavar group. The sheer force of his presence made it instantly clear who he was. I only agreed to this meeting because I hate those Iskari bastards more than I hate you. I'm guessing it's mutual. If you want a truce, there'd better be something to sweeten the deal. I don't think these guys here will settle for anything less. Yeah, hell yeah, don't let him weasel out, Randall. Get him, Randall. What's up with your hand, Randall? Cheers of approval rang out from the rowdy group behind him. Why, of course, Mr. Randall. We wouldn't dream of offering anything but the fairest of terms for our Mavar brethren. One of the Golgotha vampires stepped forward, his sing-song voice tinged with a British accent. Oh, there we go, there's our British vampire, there he is. Fuck you, slimy bastard. What do Americans call British people? What is it? Limey. That's it. We know what your game is. Snarls and jeering instantly rustled among the Mavar in response. Fairest, sure. You bastards would cheat a blind guy at dice if you could get away with it. So, what are you gonna try to sell us? Fortune-telling services? Voodoo magic? We're gonna need something realer than empty promises. Whatever that meant. The Golgotha vampire let out a smug chuckle, like he had a hidden trump card ready. I didn't like the sound of that. If I had to crash and burn this meeting, then I'd have to do something now before they worked out a deal. I rush up to Randall, get instantly killed. Let's rush up to Randall. Whoa, hey, watch where you go. Pushing through the crowd of Mavar, I bolted up to Randall as fast as I could. I pulled out his knife and held it in my palms, trying to keep my face from revealing anything. Whoa, what the hell are you doing, kid? He glared at me, shocked and suspicious, and I realized that if I couldn't convince him, that accusing look might just be the last thing I'd ever see. Boss, I found this on one of their guys. This? Kid, I don't know what you're... What the... Cutting off mid-sentence, Randall glanced down at the knife in my hands. Then his eyes slid back up to mine, meeting my gaze wordlessly for a few moments. You got this from... a Golgotha. He took a deep breath. These they stole it from me? Holy hell. Excuse me? Mr. Randall, would you mind explaining what's going on? The leader of the Golgotha group called over to us, clearly confused. Damn it, I can't deal with this shit right now. Mr. Randall, awfully sorry to interrupt, but we'd really like to present our turn. Get the fuck out of here. All of you bastards, meeting's fucking cancelled. Randall's angry command echoed through the garage, loud enough to make a few vampires wince. And you guys, make sure these motherfuckers scurry back to their rat holes. He addressed his own group with a low growl, which was met with hurried nods and eager knuckle-cracking. I'll meet you outside in a little while. Go on, get going. Alright, you heard the man. Come on, let's go. Within seconds, the garage turned into a chaotic mess of Golgotha vampires fending off rabid Mavar, who pushed and shoved them to the exit. It was easy to tell how much Randall's group was hungry for a fight, but the Golgotha vampires stayed placid, like they refused to give the Mavar what they wanted. The confusion and shouting went on for a few hectic minutes, but eventually the garage emptied. leaving behind only Randall and me. Uh-oh. Man, you have some balls. After a long moment of silence, Randall let out a long, tired sigh, finally turning his attention back to me. That was supposed to be a trick, right? You were trying to turn me against the gulls? Not gonna lie, it was a pretty shitty attempt. Even if they did bring my knife as a bargaining chip, there's no way they'd be that careless with it. Let me guess, Queen Bitch sent you, didn't she? No, your mother and I haven't spoken in years. Let's just be fucking straight up with them. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't care about any of these people. They, like, forced me into doing this shit. I don't care. You mean Charisse? Who the hell else? Fucking Charisse. Figures. She must have known I'd see through this. It's too obvious. What the hell is she aiming for? Iskari and their mind games, damn it. Randall growled deep in his throat, fangs bared like a wild animal. But his rage didn't seem focused at me, much to my surprise. He was still holding the knife too, so I considered myself lucky. Ugh. Finally, he let out a groan, most of the anger on his face fading into annoyance. Probably good we didn't bargain with those freaks anyway. They were up to something, just like always. But you have never seen your face before, and I've seen just about every vampire in LA. And since you were sent on a suicide mission, it doesn't take a whole lot of detective work to see that you're new. Cannon fodder, kicked out to die. What's your name, anyway? It's Valkii. Oh, I tried to press 1 for some reason, to see, as if that would work. Valkii, huh? Well, Valkii, way to make a fucking entrance. He didn't sound quite as pissed as I figured he'd be. I probably should tear you up for pulling that shit on us, but man, I guess you didn't get much of a choice. It's just like Queen Bitch taking a newbie and throwing her out to the sharks. But there's not a whole lot I can do for you, not with her on high alert. The Iskari still have the most power in LA right now, so if Charisse wanted you dead, well, you'd be dead. She'd find you no matter where you tried to hide out. Taking you in right now, well, you'd be too much of a risk, and I gotta look out for me and my group. His shoulders raised in a hapless shrug, one hand scratching at the back of his head. He really did sound apologetic, even though he didn't necessarily have any reason to be. Well, Charisse wants a truce with you eventually. Would you agree to one? What? She says you're the leader of the Mavar and wants to be allies. Huh. A choked laugh of disbelief erupted from his throat. If he reacted like that just to the mention of an alliance, it probably didn't bode well for Charisse. That's the dumbest thing I've heard all month, and I just read a magazine ad trying to tell me my dick wasn't big enough. Well, yeah, Stop it. Stop it. Just because you're a vampire, you don't need to say that shit. Sure, these guys look up to me, but I'm not their leader. They have no leader. That's kind of the fucking point. Told her that 100 goddamn times too. Hard concept for a dolled up fascist to grasp, I guess. I mean, you just took the lead on a meeting with those people though, so why not do the same thing again? He muttered his last words spitefully, grinding a stray piece of gravel underneath his boot. Yeah, I think Charisse might be pals with Stalin. What the fuck? You sounded like a leader earlier. Me? I'm just their voice. You know, 50 guys shouting at once, that can get real loud. Isn't that a leader? You're just speaking for the group? Like, you gather their opinions and then you speak them? I don't know, that kind of sounds like a leader. I mean, I know a leader has to take choices into their own hands, but he just sounds like someone who listens to his people and, like, you know, is the voice. So that's a leader, right? I don't know, I know that's just what he said, but I don't know how else to describe it. Now, one guy speaking for the group, that makes negotiations a lot easier, even if I'd rather negotiate with my knuckles in that smug fucker's face. He snarled, grinding his fist into his palm, glaring in the direction of the Golgotha, glaring in the direction the Golgotha went off earlier. Christ, I can't believe Queen Bitch thinks I'll work under her. Every Iskari's always out to use or kill you for power, that's just how it goes. They say they're all about beauty and peace and words over fighting, but it's all a fucking sham. One big bunch of snakes. I'm an Iskari, actually. Ah, shit. You are, aren't you? Abruptly stiffening, Randall stared at me for a few seconds, his fingers curled into fists, knuckles turning white. But before long, he let out a pained sigh. If I didn't have a soft spot for newbies, I'd be real tempted to crack you open right here, but I won't. My point still stands. Ascari will fuck you over no matter what, even if you're part of the same house. I mean, I believe it. And those Golgotha creeps, they're all wrapped up in shit, I don't know, conspiracy theories or weird prophecies or something. Except for Marcus anyway. Marcus is the best guy I know around here. Ew, who the fuck would say that? Marcus, yes, we've met. Already? Makes sense, I guess. He knows everything that goes on in this city somehow. Marcus, man. I used to hate his guts since he was always playing nice with Queen Bitch, not to mention that slow, preachy way he talks. But then when I shut up and actually listened to what he said, I realized he's got it all figured out. The politics, the mind games, everything. Randall paused, shaking his head in bemused awe. He didn't seem like the type of guy who'd respect just anyone, so the fact he thought so highly of Marcus must have really meant something. That guy could be king of Los Angeles if he wanted to. Hell, probably the whole world. But instead he just hangs out in his porn store and sells giant rubber dicks. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Ha ha ha, yeah, it makes me think that I want to stay away from him. Randall clutched his stomach, doubling over as if he'd just cracked the best joke of the century, while my character's just kind of looking at him like, the fuck, dude? My house is full of scumbags. The Golgotha are crazy. What's wrong with the Mavar? Good work. I can tell you've been paying attention. Not a whole lot to say about us, really. Mavar don't complicate shit. Hello, kitten. You coming back in? Opening my door. Yep. We just don't stand for unfair rules, and Queen Bitch is full of them. Vampires should be able to do whatever the hell they want. Okay, well, there should be rules, dude. No murder sprees and no revealing your nature in public. Yeah, so you do want rules. So you can't just do whatever you want. You do have rules. Don't lie. Don't lie to me. Aside from that, we like to live our unlives as we damn well please, usually on the wilder side. Got a problem with another vampire? Face him head on, no politics, that shit's for the Ascari. We're beasts after all, and Mavar don't hide from that, we embrace it. Sounds a little barbaric. Yeah, I guess it would sound like that to an Ascari. No bidets and whatever other stupid pampered shit you guys like. Tea cozies. Oh, because I don't like people just fighting with their fists all the time. I suddenly need a bidet and tea cozies. Can he tell I'm British? Can he tell? Even an Ascari should be able to get it though. It doesn't take long to see the difference between mortal life and unlife. Trying to make crazy powerful creatures all play nice with each other is a recipe for fucking disaster. Lying, murder, theft, it's all a piece of cake for us. You're not making the argument you think you are, I don't think. Oh, whatever, you'll understand one day. Yeah, I'm a baby vampire. With a wry smile, Randall reached out to clamp a large hand on my shoulder, squeezing it roughly. Alright kid, it's been fun, but I need to make sure the others aren't running down gulls in the streets or anything else too crazy. I'm usually at the beach with my crew. The beach, yeah, that sounds like the perfect place for a vampire to be. So if you ever decide to hop onto the winning team... He trailed off and clicked his tongue playfully, winking at me. Thanks, Randall. Nah, no need to thank me. Just be nice, I'm being nice to him. The only one I don't really like is Marcus. We were all newbies once. I do try my best to remember that. See ya, dude. And with that, we parted ways. I guess... Though thinking about it, I did have a problem with the dude who was on guard, and instead of giving him money, I punched him, so I guess I did think with my fists there. But I didn't want to give him money because I don't know how much money I have. I left the parking garage with a slightly clearer picture of the world I'd been tossed into thanks to Randall. Luckily, the guard at the entrance was gone, so I avoided another awkward encounter, and maybe Randall would explain things to him later. That whole mess had worked out somehow, although I had to wonder how much was just beginner's luck, since most of it seemed too convenient to be true. I arrived at the hotel with an overwhelming sense of relief, making my way back to the meeting room from last night. Oh, hey, Heath. As it turns out, Charisse and Heath were already waiting for me. Welcome back, Valkii. We already heard about the little mess you caused at the parking garage. Word travels fast. Heath's airy voice rang with pride, and he offered me an encouraging smile. Thanks, Bae. Yes, you've done quite an impressive job. Your performance certainly surpassed my expectations. Unsurprisingly, Charisse didn't match Heath's smile, but she did offer me a sharp nod. You tricked me, you complete... Yeah, but... It was a piece of cake. Yeah, but... Ahem. Before we go any further, let me clear the air. I predicted that Randall would see through the knife deception. However, you accomplished a twofold task, perhaps without realizing it. You disrupted their truce discussions, at least for now, and you also made yourself known by name to Randall, who is a significantly powerful vampire. From the smug lilt in her tone, I could tell Charisse was pretty pleased with the outcome of events. Did that mean my instincts were right? None of what happened back there was an accident? As I mentioned earlier, your naivety is assumed by everyone you meet. Even secretive, insular vampires will open up to you simply because they want to win you to their cause. You should use this to your advantage while you still can. Ingratiate yourself with those who believe you have no allegiances. Well, seems kind of dishonest. On the contrary, there is nothing dishonest about it. Most vampires have only their own self-interest at heart. If they're foolish enough to believe you incapable of critical thought, then they deserve whatever they get. Well, it's not true exactly, is it? She sniffed pointedly, nudging her glasses back up her nose. The matter aside, I have another task for you. It entails less conflict, but it is of equal importance. I'm listening. One of my contacts in South LA was unreachable tonight. I need to know why, but I can't spare any of my other associates to go find her. Things are very busy, you see. I imagine she's perfectly fine, as she often vanishes for a night or two to engage in frivolities, but I'd like to confirm the situation. Go to the area, track her down, and report back to me. Not too complicated, is it? Understood, I'll be back once I found your contact. Excellent, I have the greatest faith you'll carry out the promise. My calm response seemed to please Charisse, who peered at me contentedly from over her glasses. Very well, one final thing, Valkii, before you go. What is it? I suggest you partner yourself with, or at least try to learn from, an older vampire. My agent here, Heath, is relatively new himself, but he may have some valuable insights on Hollywood to share with you. When Charisse mentioned his name, Heath perked up, his eyes sparkling curiously. Did I hear you compliment me just now, Charisse? I was merely stating the facts. She coolly replied to Heath without missing a beat. Oh, I see. Moving along. Marcus, too, possesses remarkable insight and knowledge, but as a Golgotha, he is also particularly eccentric, and his loyalties are unpredictable. Take everything he says with a grain of salt. And this may come as a surprise. If you decide to seek out Randall as a mentor, I won't stop you. I acknowledge the strength of his position as well as his charisma and conviction. However, do not let yourself be swayed by his anarchistic beliefs. And that word went right over my head for a second. The current war is proof of what happens when vampires eschew leadership, chaos, paranoia, and bloodshed. Thanks for the advice, I'll choose carefully. So you should. The decision may be the most important one you'll ever make. Heath and I will be staying here to discuss affairs, but I'll expect your report in the next few days, Valkii. She lifted an elegant hand, pointedly gesturing towards the door. Heath looked disappointed, flashing me an apologetic grimace when Charisse wasn't looking, but it seemed like he was stuck there for the moment. Bye. I took the hint and left, heading towards the elevator. A part of me wondered what affairs they were talking about, but eavesdropping probably wasn't worth the risk. I disagree. Let's go take the risk. My room welcomed me back with all its glamorous, lifeless shine. But as Ew. I don't like that picture. But as relieved and happy as I was to complete my trial, I felt incredibly restless and uneasy. Lifting the curtains with one hand, I gazed out the window, absorbing the vibrant cityscape before me. Yesterday it had all felt like a dream. Today reality was finally settling in. I was a vampire, chained to eternity. Trapped behind glass, separated from the Hollywood life I'd dreamed of, so close and forever unreachable. Like the cityscape, that dream would always glitter in the distance, a reminder of what I'd lost. No matter how strong I was, it still felt like my whole world had just plunged upside down, and I couldn't find anywhere to put my feet. Maybe I really did need a mentor to help me through this. Rules, etiquette, and powers, I could figure those out by myself, given enough time, but that wasn't what I needed most. I needed a way to ground myself, to figure out what being a vampire really meant, and who I was becoming. The three men Charisse mentioned seemed to know what they were doing, if nothing else. There was a good chance that one of them could help me discover my place in this new life. With that, I made up my mind. Tomorrow I'd go and see Heath. Boo. Heath seemed incredibly compassionate, and unless it was a very convincing act, he was also quite attached to me. Still, I knew he must have had struggles of his own. I could see something always lingering behind his eyes. With our shared Ascari blood, we might understand each other even better. And if I partnered myself with him, I'd always have a reminder of humanity close by. I feel like even his personality is my favorite, along with his aesthetic. My voice is going. Aesthetic? And it was settled. Tomorrow I'd take a break from running Charisse's errands and go find Heath instead. That thought was only a small pillar in the whirlwind I'd been thrown into, but I clung to it as tightly as I could. A little excitement sparked through me as I shut the curtains, curling onto my bed to hide from the coming daylight. If this was what fate had in store for me, then so be it. I would fight and struggle to stay afloat in this world I'd been thrown into, and no matter what, I wouldn't give up. Even if it meant I would never see another sunrise again. Well, you don't really have a choice in that anymore. The faded wooden sign in front of me looked like a relic from Hollywood's golden age. Saturnalia, it read in swirly letters. It seemed this was the place. I'd left the hotel not long ago, where the desk clerk helpfully gave me directions to Heath's bar. Apparently, it was a popular neutral ground for LA's vampires, even the ones who didn't live close to Hollywood. I wasn't really sure what to expect from the place, or if I'd be welcomed as a new vampire, but since Heath ran it, I'd hopefully be safe. I'm gonna close my door. I don't know how to get out of this. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, I actually didn't get comfortable. This guy looked creepy. The bar I stepped into was dim, slightly cramped, and flecked with low conversations. This mic is not near enough to me. Something about it felt faded, like the sign outside. Maybe it was the peeling movie posters on the walls, or the lonely patrons sitting in corners, or the glittering lights that filtered through the windows. Somehow it brought me back to a time I couldn't even remember. Pardon. Oh, how do you do? Someone started to squeeze past me to reach the door. Oh, it's Golgotha. The same Golgotha from the other night. Move out of the way. He eyed me curiously for a moment, but soon stepped towards the door. Well, it was neutral ground after all. It probably wasn't all that strange to see members of all three houses hanging around. His timing had been remarkably coincidental, though. As much as I'd love to have you for a door greeter, I think I'd rather talk to you myself. I turned to see Heath sauntering towards me, wearing his usual gentle smile. A lit cigarette dimly glowed between his fingers, which he brought to his lips as he approached my side. Well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes? Did you miss me as much as I missed you? I wonder. He couldn't seem to bite back a grin, averting his eyes almost shyly. I hope you like the bar. You'll see a lot of new faces here. On most nights, it's neutral ground like the club, a little less noisy, maybe. I try my best to keep Saturnalia a place for all of us, even now with the war getting so bitter. It's not a lot, but I feel like it's the only thing I can do to give us a better chance at peace. Maybe a drink will help them put their differences aside, even if it's just for a little while. Gently trailing off into silence, Heath took a drag of his cigarette, exhaling a thin stream of smoke. His gaze lingered on the floor for a few long moments, for a long few moments, before shifting back to my face, full of a lively sparkle. But enough about that. I know you came here for a reason. You decided to choose me as your mentor, didn't you? Should I be like, yeah, I want to help, or am I curious about him? Let's save. I actually want to see what kind of response this elicits. Oh, that's a response. He blinked, inhaling softly. But it didn't take long for a warm, almost shy smile to curl over his lips, and he self-consciously stroked a hand down his scarf. Like, I'm gonna keep that option. That was so funny. At this rate, you're gonna make my heart beat again. But I can't be so selfish. You're still new to this world, and before you and I get to know each other better, I want to help you find a path for yourself. He rubbed his shoulder as he spoke, pausing to bring his cigarette back to his lips. It looked like he was hesitating over something, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. Listen, why don't I get you a drink? Probably sounds like a strange thing for our kind to do, but it makes it a little easier to forget what we are. I usually just stick a straw in the nearest hobo and call it a night. You mean alcohol? Not quite. Come over here and I'll show you. Motioning for me to follow, Heath led the way past the quiet rows of booths and tables. I caught a few wary glances thrown towards me, curious faces peering into mine as I walked by. Were those looks because I was a new vampire, or because I was working for Charisse? After Heath pulled out a seat for me, he glided around to the opposite side of the bar. It feels like I've been running Saturnalia for so long, even though it's only been a few years. I owe Charisse so much for giving me the chance to earn a little humanity back. As he gazed off into the distance, Heath reached beneath the bar, pulling out a cloudy decanter of deep ruby liquid that I almost could have mistaken for wine. Then he put down a black opaque glass before me, gesturing invitingly. It's taken willingly from a human who's had alcohol, you see. Strange, maybe it's the easiest way for us to drink. Most can't handle anything like beer or even coffee. I don't want to seem like I'm only trying to get you tipsy, though. You should have one too. I planned on it. I'd hate to leave you drinking alone. He poured us each a small glass, passing it to me before clinking our glasses together in a toast. To us. Heath lifted his glass to take a long drink, and I did the same. The rich, intoxicating headiness of the blood and the telltale burn of alcohol mingled in my throat. It was surprisingly good, or maybe it wasn't too surprising considering Heath's self-proclaimed standards. You know, I thought it was going to be so easy being a vampire. His voice lowered a little, words falling into the steady cadence of someone absorbed in their thoughts. Cadence? What was that? I misread that word completely, I think. You only have to feed yourself, stay away from the sun, and keep your true nature secret, and you live forever. You can do whatever you like, take all the lovers you want, go to all the places you've dreamed of. But when you finally realize that you're no longer human, when the curtain slowly peels back, and you start to miss how things were, that was the hardest part for me. I noticed Heath's fingers squeezed tightly about his glass. His knuckles might have turned deathly white if they hadn't already nearly been that colour. But the next moment he bit his lip, letting out a soft laugh. Listen to me, already saying all these depressing things. You're not getting bored, are you? Oh, you really think I could get bored talking to you? That's so sweet of you to say. It'd break my heart if you didn't mean it, so I really hope you do. He fiddled a little with his glass, tracing a fingertip along the rim. Well, you came here for my help, and I want to help you in any way I can. But I'd like to know a little more about you first, so I don't put the wrong ideas into your head or waste your time. After setting his forgotten cigarette in the ashtray, Heath leaned forward a few inches, gazing intently into my eyes. Maybe the most important question is, why did you come to Hollywood in the first place? I dreamed of being a star. I felt like I'd find a way to express myself here, reaching the whole world. Of course, artists, writers, designers, even just people living their everyday lives, things are so free and creative here. He turned his head up slightly towards the warm lights, closing his eyes with a small sigh. At least that dream doesn't have to be ruined. Hollywood lets you explore and share new sides of yourself, even for people like us. I know you'll find a way, and I hope I can help you somehow. When Heath turned back to me, he looked almost innocently excited. Staying silent for a moment or two longer, he sucked in his bottom lip to chew on it lightly. I'd like to ask you another question, if you don't mind, about our house and the conflict. Heath paused to refill his drink, pouring into the small glass until it nearly ran over. He reached out to top off my drink too, before putting the decanter back under the counter. You're an Ascari just like me, and it makes you seem even more wonderful, as if fate really did bring us together. But I'm also afraid for you, Valkii. I'm afraid that the Mavar and Golgotha might reject you, even though you're still new and free from our grudges and vendettas, just because of the house you're in. If they do reject you, what will you do? I'll find a way to win them over, don't worry. I might doubt that if it came from a different Iskari, but I have a feeling you can win over anyone you want to. You better be careful or else the whole city might fall into your lap. He snickered playfully, but his expression never quite lost its seriousness. Before long, his teasing grin fell into a hesitant smile. Then the mirth faded altogether. Valkii, I'm not a very good liar. An actor, maybe, but not a liar. So I'll just tell you what my motive in this war is, rather than trying to hide it. As he spoke, Heath looked slightly embarrassed, though no less determined to say what he wanted to say. Somehow I want the three leaders to bring their houses back together. If we could only get rid of this fear and hatred dividing us, then maybe we can make Hollywood at night feel like home again. I'm going to try my best to make that happen. I keep trying to press 1 for the first option. Really? Will you really try? He gazed rapturously at me, a look that I might have called breathless if he had needed to breathe. It didn't last for long, since he had soon cleared his throat and glanced downward. A human might have blushed, but his eyes were still lit up with delight. Then, pulling away from the counter, he slipped out from behind the bar, coming around to my side. With the barrier no longer between us, the atmosphere suddenly felt much more personal, more vulnerable and open. I want to help you, Valkii, as much as I can. Support, guidance, even just being here to tell you how important you are. Anything you need from me is yours. As he leaned down beside me, Heath dropped his voice to a quiet, serious murmur, frowning in almost a naively earnest way. It's just, I'm already so deep in the society, in the war, in all the problems that come with those things. I wish I could protect you from them, but I know you'll be pulled in too. Would you rather I pull you out? I think it's too late for that. This is where I'm meant to be. I can't run away and leave it all behind. No, I have to see things through to the very end. As his words drifted into silence, Heath lowered his head. The pause that stretched on between us began to feel a little awkward, like there was something unspoken hanging in the air. Heath, the date has been switched to... Valkii. Hello. Oh no, is it fucking Charisse? At that moment, an authoritative voice sharply addressed us from behind. What are you doing here? There stood Charisse, along with some kind of agent attending her side. When she saw us together, the initial surprise on her face quickly shifted to a certain satisfaction. Charisse. I intended to speak with Heath about a brief matter, but how remarkably convenient that you're here as well, Valkii. With a slightly too pleased smirk, Charisse adjusted her glasses, peering at me approvingly. Now that I consider it, you are a fine candidate to assist in the task we were about to discuss. The prospect of whatever Charisse was referring to made Heath peek up. I don't know why I called him Hearth just then. His eyes darting between the two of us. The prospect of whatever Charisse was referring to made Hearth... Oh, no, that's the same thing. You're sending me on a job with Heath. I assume that was implied from the context of what I have previously said, but yes, I am. I'm not going to be your little pet just, like, saying yes or whatever you say. I'm going to question you. I don't care. If those are the only options I have, question. You will accompany Heath to a party at the abattoir. It's nothing tremendous, merely a small gathering of influential humans enjoying their regular debauchery. A diplomatic agent of mine recently abandoned her post, not to join the enemy, but to live out a delusional fairy tale. She's trying to believe that she's still human. When Heath quietly interjected, Charisse gave him a sharp glance, followed by a nod. Normally, I wouldn't waste my time on retrieving her, except for the fact she is endangering our secrecy. She disguises herself as a human and engages in these parties, but if she makes one slip-up around them, the ensuing mess will be a ridiculous hassle, and celebrities who know too much simply can't simply be disposed of. So figure out her disguise and report that information to me. My agents will intercept her later. That shouldn't be a problem, especially with Heath's help. Oh, of course, you can trust the two of us to uncover her. I should hope that two vampires can accomplish such a simple objective, although there may be a minor complication. While it is no Herculean task to pick out a vampire from a group of mortals, Iskari are rather skilled at camouflaging themselves. You'll have to pay particular attention to the body language and attitude of the guests. It is a useful skill for a young Iskari like yourself to acquire, and this will be the perfect opportunity. Heath can also instruct you on a unique ability that our house members usually develop. In the future, it may service you well. Thank you for letting me bring her along, Charisse. Yes, well, it's always a pleasant surprise when the most practical decisions turn out to be enjoyable, isn't it? She briskly replied to Heath while adjusting her glasses, glancing at him for only a moment. The party's date has been changed to the day after tomorrow, so there is plenty of time for you to find the whereabouts of my other agent beforehand, Valkii. I'll be expecting a report soon. Good evening, the two of you. After gesturing to the attentive man beside her, Charisse nodded once to me, then to Heath, before striding towards the exit. I will see you in the next one.